Welcome to Attican Plays Railway Empire. Alright, hi, this is Attican and welcome to Railway Empire, Northern Europe DLC, the Hibernation scenario, using the lady, episode 2. So, in our last episode, we got the L-Town and N-Town built up, and we hit 120,000 population, and now we've got tasks to expand out into a new region and hook up a couple of towns. I think it's called Jonkoping and Gothenburg, and we also have to run passengers directly, non-stop, from Stockholm to Gothenburg. That's a long haul, and what we're going to do here, there's really two ways to tackle this that would work. We're going to take the less expensive initial investment, which is we're going to set up a dedicated track out of Stockholm, but we're going to link it into our existing network so that we save a tremendous amount of money, really, on track. We could have a dedicated line, and it would just make money like crazy because it's such a long haul with passengers and mail. But, and you know, with the ladies' bonuses, wow. But as it is, we just want to get the task done and want to move on to that other task, which is growing Gothenburg, which is going to be a job. We have to grow it up to 60,000 population. And on this map, 60,000 is a lot of people. So you can see here, we're tracing down. We've got a line going all the way out here to L-Town and from Stockholm. So we can just branch off of that and build our main line that's going to run all the way down to Gothenburg. But then the other challenge we have is, of course, we have to get access to that region that holds Jonkoping and Gothenburg. So we're going to have to save up some money. But the good news is we're pretty strong right now. We're making money. We've got about 3 good passenger mail lines going. We've got some good actually, we've got even some good freight hauling, and we've even got some industries that we own. And looky here, this popped up right at the end of the last episode. A promoter, hooray, will sick her on Gothenburg and start growing Gothenburg, even though we're not even connected there yet. So we'll get off to a great start there. And you saw me circle there. What we want to target is the Halda, which is a true express train. So we can use it on our passenger and mail lines and then keep running our freight. What we'll probably end up with for a long time here will be the Hulda for passenger to mail, and then the Rhine, which is right below it, will be our target to get that researched and use that for our freight lines. So now we're going to close up our smallest bond, open up a bigger one. Now we've got enough funds to work our way into that region. So we bought access to the region. Now we're going to extend our line out and continue that line going so it goes all the way over to Gothenburg. And we're going to skip Jonkoping for just a second and go around it, because I want to make sure that we get a direct connection going and get passengers and mail moving toward Gothenburg. Because the one way that this could be a problem is if we had passenger mail lines or automatic lines, even for that matter, running, say, Stockholm to N-Town, N-Town to L-Town, L-Town to Jonkoping, Jonkoping to Gothenburg, we might have a problem getting passengers to load up for that direct route from Stockholm to Gothenburg. Doing it this way, we're going to skip all that and make sure we have passengers interested in going that way, and then we'll set up our other lines to between those cities. And we'll end up really at the same place, but I've experimented with this before, and you can have a problem sometimes getting these direct lines if you have competing ways for the passengers to get there. Now, we don't have any problem with overland. There's no overland route they can take that can compete with our railroad because it's a long way. But again, if you do have competing city to city where they're all linked up, you could have a problem. So as soon as we can, we'll get that line built all the way out there.
A historic moment.
Like about right now.
For the very first time, the eastern and the western parts of Sweden are connected to each other. Now, The connection has to prove itself.
Now we've got this other task to connect Jonkoping into this. So we're just going to go ahead and do that. We're going to set a line here, just hook on like so. There we go, task
A
done.
natural way station.
So our two remaining tasks are transport 200 passengers non-stop, Stockholm to Gothenburg, and grow Gothenburg to 60,000. So what we want to do to get that done is we want to double track this new section of track that we just built. It's going to end up being a main line for us that goes all the way back there to right before L-Town. So, well, from that point of view, right past L-Town. So that's going to cost us a fair amount. But again, we are making money at a nice clip now. So I'm going to delete the very end of that and bump it over so that it's connected to the topmost track. And that will allow us to take the remaining track, hook it into the bottom part like so. There we go. Now we've got a nice clean connection. Set our signals, and now we've got track all the way from Stockholm to Gothenburg. And we're going to fire up a line here and see if we can't get people headed that way. Passenger and mail only. We'll go out of, we'll specify a track up there, track 3. And I realize I've made my usual mistake when I don't use point to point. So track 4 doesn't work either. So now the light bulb's going to come on. I'm going to realize what I've done. I haven't put the diamond crossing in front there so that those two tracks are truly accessible. So we put the little diamond in front. That opens up both tracks in both directions. And we'll have to get rid of that one signal that's up there too far. It's past the diamond. Get rid of that, and now we're good. Now we should be able to set the line. Passenger mail only. We'll go out of track 3. And we're also going to run full. This is unusual for a passenger mail, but it's a big, long trip, and we've got a goal in mind, so we're going to run full. And we will accept passenger and mail. So we put a train on it, and we give it rail car, dining and mail car. Might as well make some money. And there you can see the first load's all mail. But there we go. There's some passengers coming. And we're going to run several trains here and just let them stack up and wait and grab a full load whenever they can. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to have a dedicated platform for this so that they wouldn't be holding up our other traffic. So that should be that task taken care of, frankly. That should be it. That when those trains finally hit down there, we shouldn't have any trouble reaching our goal of 200 passengers nonstop. So now we've got to start building Gothenburg. And of course, a storm is passing through the area, so it's messing everything up. But what we want to do is take advantage of the connections that we have and all the good natural resources around us here. So we're going to build another kind of a trunk line from Gothenburg down to, what do I want to say, down to that city down below it, whatever that is. Now, what I'm seeing here is we've already got textiles up there in L-Town. Someone has put it, no, we did actually, I take that back. There's a textile manufacturer up there. I was thinking about doing it with that wool up there above Gothenburg, and then maybe down at this town below us here, whatever it is, to do the textiles. But change of plans, going to change that. And what I did decide to do here is go ahead and bite the bullet, if you will, and make this all 4 lanes accessible so I don't have to, have so many dedicated lines. Because we are using we've kind of switched over to a trunk line approach now. And we've kind of used that the whole way. We're still using these regular stations without the auto signals. Don't worry, we'll get into the fancy ones here soon enough. So I'm going to put down a depot just to block this off so I can delete this out, because I got to get this track cleaned up so I can make my X crossings. That storm is loud. So we come out of the two middle ones, we hook the two end ones into it, put an X in front of that, and that opens up all 4 tracks. And then now I'm just checking to see where are these trains going. They're going to track 1. So the trains from Stockholm are going into track 1, so we can use the other 3 tracks for our other lines. And that storm, just like it's just following me wherever I want to build, that's where it's going. All right, so we've got down here below us, we've got the pigs that we need for that the meat up in Gothenburg, and we've got fish down there on the coast, and we've got our town down there below us that we want to hook up to. So the first thing I'm doing here is hooking L-Town into the trunk line, if you will, from this direction, so that it can go back and forth to Gothenburg. So I'm just going to do a little point-to-point connection to platform 2 there, and set up our signals. And now we've got the ability to send that. We'll set up an automatic line, so it'll take whatever, but it should be able to transport cloth over to Gothenburg as soon as it's needed. There you can see a whole load of mail, which is fine. It's money, you know. It's ka-ching, ka-ching, no matter what. And we want to run a line into Jonkoping, but I decided it's time to switch. It's time for, because I'm not worried about getting express lines now. We're in city growth mode. So I'm going to start using our fancy stations. So we're going to put in our first fancy station with the auto signaling and hook that into our system so that we can start moving those textiles from L-Town up here to, I guess I can call this one J-Town. So from L-Town to J-Town, we'll be carrying some passengers and mail, but we'll also, the big thing we'll be looking for would be the textiles to go up there to that clothing factory in J-Town. Because all that, everything we're doing now is to grow Gothenburg. So we're thinking Gothenburg's going to need textiles eventually, we'll send them. It's going to need clothing eventually, we'll make sure we're sending textiles to J-Town to make clothing to send them. So everything is it's all about building up Gothenburg. Sorry, I was kind of watching what I was doing there. I'm cleaning this track up. Again, this is another one. I made a point-to-point connection, and I decided I wanted to go to more of the generic track here, where you can kind of plug into whichever platform you need. We've got enough money to do this kind of thing now, so I'm trying to get that line to come out of there. I was having trouble, but I want it to be relatively straight for a bit, because it's hard if you've got too much curve. It's hard to put your your diamond crossing in there. And you'll notice there that line, it seems like there's a little gap there, so I don't think this is coming out real clean the way I'd like it to. So I'm just going to take this whole thing down and build a line that comes out relatively. See, it's weird. It doesn't want to even give a line there, so that's strange. But anyway, we get a little straight section coming out first, and then hook it into the trunk line. Double track it back, and notice we're coming out of the 2 middle ones. We'll just use this technique whenever we have a regular station. We'll come out of the 2 middle ones, hook the end ones into the system like that, and put our diamond in front of it, and now we've got the ability to use all 4 tracks. There we go. And again, just checking usage of the tracks. And we're going to set up a line. From L-Town out of track 2, because it has just minimal use, over to J-Town. And that museum trains is a nice one. I really hadn't realized what a great one that is, because not only do you get it, but you can actually, it's a money maker for you. I mean, you can actually get an influx of cash with that. So we're going to send a couple of trains, enough to make sure we're getting the wool up there, but I want to be cognizant of not getting this trunk line too busy. You know, lots going. I'm seeing a lot going to happen here as we go along. So now we want to hook it up so that we can run J-Town to Gothenburg. And I could consider putting those special, I haven't really studied it. I mean, we could think about putting the special cars on there, even if you don't know if it's going to be freight or mail or passengers on any particular run. You could go ahead and put your cars on there. But if I kind of, my attitude is, if we're going to get a full set of freight, I want a full set of freight, because we're in city growth mode now, not trying to make, optimize passenger mail lines. So I want to put a warehouse down here to the south of Gothenburg. I think, is this our first warehouse? I think it is. So we're going to put wheat, fish, and I keep messing this up. What am I going to put in here? I'm actually trying to think. Okay, there. I've got it in my head about that whole wool down to that southern town, but I realized, no, we've already got that covered. So what are we going to put in this warehouse? Give me a minute and I'll figure it out. Right now, it's fish. Don't worry, it'll be more. My brain will. I will punch in here momentarily. I have confidence. I'm trying to see if we can possibly buy that region. We can't, because the town down below has no industry. We could put an industry in there of our choice, which would be nice. But I don't know what to put in there just yet. So there we go. Now I'm punching in a little bit. We're going to run our pigs over there into Gothenburg, because they need it for the meat industry there. But we're going to start out by building a trunk line that goes down from Gothenburg to, I got to get that. Once we get down there, I'll see the name of that town. Sorry. Wow, he's way down there. Halmstad. So Halmstad actually has a bonus for an industry. I mean, they're so it would be lovely. So we're going to again, we've kind of switched over to our superstations now, because we've got the funds to do it. And why not? It makes life easier. So we're just going to run a direct line from Gothenburg to Halmstad. I want to have it as direct as possible, of course, makes the shortest track, fastest run. But there you can see the industry bonus for a new industry, so hooray. And now there's some hills going up to the pigs, so we're going to eventually get off those hills and have a nice line here. And after all that fussing, I finally realized, well, just get off the hill, dummy. If you get off the hill, you won't have the problems there. So just go around the slope And then you have minor things to clean up instead of major fixes in your elevation changes. And you get nice, relatively flat track that the trains can run on smoothly. And you get a nice line that isn't overly expensive, and all is well. That's looking better. There we go. Double track it back, of course. Now remember, I didn't put in, I got those trains going before I set the supply towers. So we need to make sure we have supply towers, plenty of them set along these lines. I may even be in overkill mode here right now. I think I am. I think I'm supply towering this to death. But that beats the crap out of not having enough, which I think will pop up a little later in this. A little problem with supply towers. There we go. Now we've got towers everywhere. And now we're going to hook our warehouse into that trunk line that goes down to Halmstad. That southern trunk line out of Gothenburg. Now remember, we're not really worried about passenger mail, express lines, dedicated track. We got a money-making machine here, so we're more worried about conveniently setting up our growth. So we're going to set up that warehouse on the line and the city-to-city line as well. And then we can tie things into that line to go up to the warehouse, and you can see what they would be, fish and pigs. So we'll set up an automatic line going down to Halmstad. And we got some nice freight we can carry. We've got some passengers and mail we can carry. Good deal. All right. Then we'll set up our fish and our pigs to go up to that warehouse and start feeding Gothenburg. Remember, everything we're doing here is to grow Gothenburg. So there's fish going into the warehouse. Now we'll get pigs going into the warehouse. I don't often or always, well, actually, let me rephrase that. I seldom put pigs directly into a meat industry city warehouse. I usually put it, more directly into a track so that it's consumed directly by the city rather than going through the warehouse and taking up space. But I'm actually planning on having at least 2 warehouses here, so I'm not worried about sacrificing one place to have pigs in that warehouse. And it's a great way to run them in off this trunk line and keep the main trunk line going into the city from being too busy. And there we go. There's the Halda. And this will create some opportunities and some confusion. So we're going to upgrade all of our passenger mail lines to the Halda, which is what we just did. So now we're running the Halda on those, so we should make even more money on our passenger mail lines because those are faster trains. So I'm just looking around to say, okay, what else do I want to run into Gothenburg? It's got meat, it's got pigs for the meat now. We've set up the clothing for down the road with textiles and clothing manufacturer. So I'm trying to decide, okay, what the most value I can get out of Homestead. And I decide that a sawmill would be nice. We want the simplest, earliest in the supply chain kind of business that we can put in and supply stuff for Gothenburg. And I'm also looking ahead. I don't know if you'll remember from the first episode, we looked into Gothenburg, and it has an export warehouse which exports furniture, which means we can't make enough furniture to oversupply. So we can ship as much furniture into Gothenburg as we want down the road and just make a ton of money from it. And so that logging will certainly lead to that eventually. Now, there was a weird one. There's a fish bonus connection, and we don't even have the ability to open up that region. So that's a bonus we literally cannot get. All right, so now I'm starting to punch in a little bit more. We're going to run wheat in, or grain, excuse me. We're going to run grain in, which is a true fundamental building block for the cities. I'm going to go right up here to the north to grab that grain. So of course we double track it all the way down, and we've got that the bonus there for that wool. Now the wool plan got changed. We've already got the textiles being handled out of L-Town, so we still want that bonus though. So we'll run the Waverly for freight. We'll run the Halda for passengers and mail. And I realize there, coming from the north, we really want to set that warehouse to be max. We want to load as much in there when the weather's pretty as we can for preparation for the winter. So here we're going to be cheesy and grab that bonus and then delete the track in the station and get our money back. So we just made a bunch of money for doing nothing. So you can see we've even got Homestead growing just from that running that meat down there from Gothenburg. We don't actually have Gothenburg growing yet. That's because we're still waiting on all this stuff to show up, but we're getting it all built very, very quickly. So all that looking around, I am just noodling. I'm trying to figure out, okay, what am I going to do next here? And now the next thing we're going to do is put in another large station in Gothenburg. I'm seeing a lot of traffic coming in and out there, and I wanted to reserve that space because now I want to put a big warehouse with signal controls out here and start bringing some goods in from the north. There's wood up there and vegetables, and there's some coal and iron that we're going to start hauling as well. And that one may surprise you, but I'm looking ahead to that furniture and thinking, okay, to make furniture I need steel. To make steel I need coal and iron. And I want to put a good business in Gothenburg when it hits 40,000, and you can guess what it's going to be. I'm targeting putting a steel industry in Gothenburg. And so my plan right now is to actually have all that already set up before I ever plop that steel mill down there. So we're going to go all the way out to what I think is the farthest away thing we're going to be bringing in, which is vegetables. And we're going to run a line and set up kind of a northern trunk line into Gothenburg, into that warehouse. So we'll run all the way down like so with veggies. The main thing here is I just have to line it up so that it has enough room for double track and doesn't hit any of those businesses along the way. It doesn't have any unnecessary bridges or tunnels or anything like that in it. And it actually looks pretty good. So what I'm going to go do up here, it's close to the pigs, it's close to the coal. So I'm just going to do a little test here to see how much room we got. And that looks pretty good on the coal. And the pigs, pretty good. Again, we've got enough room that we can get double track in there. So there we go. Now we've got the start of double track all the way up to those veggies. Now, one advantage and this is something really this I think is worth paying attention to. If you're struggling hitting your goals for city growth, realize that you have to be laser focused on getting the city to grow. Now, what I'm doing here, I'm sending, whoops, I picked the wrong, I picked our passenger train there, replaced it with the Waverly. But what I'm doing here is actually sending veggies down there before Gothenburg even needs them. And that way, as the instant that Gothenburg grows large enough to need veggies, boom, they're there. They're in that warehouse. That's one great use of a warehouse right there, is to preload with what you want. So here we're going to preload coal. Now coal, it's just not going to need it until we put the right industry in there. But that's our plan, is to put that steel mill in Gothenburg. So we're going to run coal down to the warehouse and have it preloaded and ready to go. And we are strong enough economically that we can do this. We can run this stuff prior to it being needed and eat that expense now, because we've got a good little money-making machine going here. So we're going to do the logs. Now the logs actually are needed. Gothenburg can consume logs right away. So this one will pay off immediately, and we'll just keep plenty of logs in there so that we've always got enough. And we'll get rid of that one signal so we don't have too short a stop there where we made that new intersection. And we'll run logs down to our warehouse. All right, so now we're going to set up the iron ore and run it in, also in anticipation of having a steel industry. But you'll see I make a really horrid mistake here. I could kick myself for this, but you'll see it. You'll see it. I won't even have to mention it. You'll see. And I think I see why I made the mistake. It does not take much for me to get distracted. So I knew I wanted to get rid of that one signal so we didn't have a short block there right at the intersection. And there you go. I made my mistake. Now, the one thing that we're not really getting is the crisp bread. And the crisp bread is very definitely something you need. So what we're going to do here is try to run a line from Örebro down to Gothenburg to feed it the crisp bread. So we can run a direct city-to-city line here and run it into our regular station down in Gothenburg and have profitable city-to-city line running between the two cities, and that will also serve the purpose of getting some crisp bread down there to Gothenburg to help it grow. And there I goof up and run it to the warehouse. That's not what I meant to do. So I've got a couple of trains going to the wrong place, because then I go, whoa, that's not a warehouse trip. That is a trip to the regular station. Now we could run it to the warehouse and only run the crisp bread, but a long line, why wouldn't you want to also run passengers and mail in both directions and have the trains more full and making more money for you? So all we have to do is hook the lines in like so and get rid of that one offending little signal right there, which again, I can't get rid of it until the train's clear. There we go. Now we've got a nice clean intersection down into Gothenburg, direct line to Örebro, and we'll just change the line. Instead of going to the warehouse, go to the city. And then we're going to copy that line and paste it in the other train. There we go. So those two are now going to the city. And we'll just copy them a couple more times, and that'll give us 4 trains running back and forth, mostly down for now. All right, so we've got our city growing now at a nice clip, but you see how small it is. And hooray, here comes a promoter. So we will stick Elisa on Gothenburg, so that'll make it grow faster. And a promoter on a city, when the city is in growth mode, is excellent. That's even more growth, a higher rate. And we're about 80% of the way done with our task of getting passengers over to Gothenburg from Stockholm. And I'm just looking to see if we got a train nearby that we could copy and get another one going. And look at that. Look what I see there. All those trains have a problem. So we're going to go in and replace... replace all the passenger and mail so that they don't have a problem, and then go in and here's where I'm saying, you know what, I don't like all this complication. This is the pain, because it's hard to get just your trains that aren't passenger mail because they don't have an auto. So I'm going to replace everything with the Waverly, and then go back and replace the passenger and mail, not with the Waverly, but with the Halda. There you go. There we go. Now we've got the right trains running the right routes, and I still need to go up there and fix all those problems that were up there. And now I've got the same deal, because now I want them all to be the Rhine. So I'm going to replace them all with the Rhine. So we're running Rhines now on everything, but I still want the Halda to be the passenger mail. And this is the point where I say, okay, enough. You'll see what I'll do about this in a minute. Now I did go through here and do an exercise where I put the conductors on that big long line, Stockholm to Gothenburg, because they give you a percentage increase on your ticket prices, why not put that percentage on the biggest tickets item we got, which is that big long line. We've got a chief engineer that not only gets along well with people, but gives us a bonus, so hooray. We don't need professors anymore. Now we'll just take inventors whenever they pop up. I really wish this train list, you could flip through the trains off your main list and not leave this screen. I still, for as great as this game is, I find putting staff on trains to be absolutely doable, but absolutely a pain in the ass. All right, so back to our story here. We've got Gothenburg growing. We've got Halmstad growing. We're going to help Halmstad out a little bit more and make a little bit more money by running some fish down there. Why not? Really, at this point, we've got. I feel like we've got Gothenburg set up for success. And so I'm just looking for other ways to grow the rest of the world and give us more opportunities. Because, for example, growing Halmstad is not a big strategic thing in terms of, oh man, if you do that, it just makes your day. However, what if we could grow Homestead to 40,000 and give it the opportunity that we could put a better another business in there? So what if we could take maybe put a furniture business down there, or tools? We could run the steel down there and make tools and run them back up to Gothenburg, or we could put the furniture store down there and run use that lumber that's already there to feed the furniture. I mean, anytime you can grow a city, it's a good thing. So once we got the Gothenburg kind of set up, I felt like that was a good thing to do. Now, here's what I'm going to do about that whole confusion with the passenger and mail and the freight trains. It's simple. We're going to get out of the mode of doing our maintenance by replacing all our trains. We're now going to do our maintenance in stations. So I'm going to go into every station, every city station and warehouse, and turn on and put in a maintenance building. And now we'll start automatically maintaining our vehicles, and we won't have that issue with needing to replace them all the time. Now, I intentionally did not do this at the beginning because the expense kills you. You cannot hit your early goals if you spend all your money on maintenance buildings. Plus, maintenance does slow you down because you now have added the time of having that done. And early on, it's not a good move. However, later on, now we're getting to the point where we've got a big enough network and enough going on that it's a job to try to keep up with all of it. So I'd like to take that idea of this replace all of my vehicles out. So what I did there first is replace every vehicle with the freight train. And now I'm going to go back behind it and take all the passenger and mail lines and replace those with the Halda, with our passenger train. And now we've got the right trains running on all the right tracks, and we've got maintenance set up on all of our cities and warehouses so that we can maintain these going down the road. So you can see here we're getting good growth, and we see again there's that furniture demand in Gothenburg. And let's just talk about that for a second.
Now,
those of you who are experienced players,
to use the train, they are independent of the caprices of the rough sea, and they are making ample use of this situation.
All right, so we got our transport passengers done, hooray! And what I was saying was, the other thing is, those of you who are experienced players, you know what's coming. When you see these export warehouses, how many scenarios have you played where there was an export warehouse and there wasn't some special goal down the road to do something with that export warehouse, like ship X number of units to that city? So looking ahead, whether you've seen this scenario before or not, you can kind of say, I think furniture is going to pop up and be a big deal at some point. So we're working toward that. And why not? Steel industry is a perfectly good thing to put in Gothenburg anyway. You've got the raw materials nearby. Everything's good. Now, what I'm checking here is we're just not getting enough of that crisp bread. We're just not. It's just that's the weakness we have in our growth right now is the crisp bread going to Gothenburg. So I'm looking at the list of what Gothenburg needs, and the next thing that Gothenburg needs that we aren't providing yet is milk. And there's milk right there, but it's in a region we can't touch. There's nothing down through here. There's no milk close by that we can get. So the closest milk, oh, here we go. I'm going to actually look for it. That one's in a region we can't touch yet. There's some way up there to the north, above those veggies. And I'm also looking, now I get a little distracted and think, well, okay, I'm still looking for milk, I don't see it. But now I'm thinking, you know what, we've got it growing, let's just make some more money. And look at the money that Stockholm to Uppsala passenger mail line is making. Even though Uppsala is a tiny little town. So why don't we connect Uppsala and whatever that town is out there to the way up in the north, Borlange, I can't even see it, Borlange. So Borlange, why don't we connect that in? So I'm going to double track that station. Since we've gone to maintenance now, it's cheaper to actually double track, have a single station that's double tracked. So we're going to double track our line that's running the wheat down there. Not really necessary to have it double tracked and want to run in one train. I'm not going to change that, but we do want to tie into a double track. And I made a slight goof there. I didn't put I didn't finish the signals off on that track going downstream. But anyway, it doesn't matter. It's one train. But that was a little goof. So we're going to run over here and hook into Uppsala. And I probably should have done the same thing here. I thought about, as I was doing this, I thought, why didn't I just double track that station? But got another small station there. We're going to set up a line directly between those two small towns, and we're going to run passenger mail between it because we'll get quite a bit. And you also get mail like up there, even this little small town of Borlange will have mail that's accumulated that people want to send to Stockholm or to other cities that we've got in our network, and they can go through this way, take this line over to Uppsala and work their way down to wherever they need to go. So it doesn't have to be specifically for Uppsala. It could be Uppsala and then on down the line somewhere. So you can get surprisingly good traffic and passenger and mail from these little tiny stations in these little tiny towns. So it's a long line. We'll run 6 trains. And now decide, let's just go cash only. We don't need to be carrying any bonds. Let's be a cash only company. And that's one I should have gotten earlier. That bribery is a very nice one to cut down on all the building costs. And I'm also looking ahead to see, you know, the cheese. Are we getting the cheese down here to Gothenburg? It is growing. We got the little green arrow down there, so it is growing. So we're doing all right. Are we growing as fast as we could be? Well, we are. If you're either growing or you're not, as I've said before. So, but are we anticipating needs? Are we getting stuff in there that could be needed down the road? And that came up earlier and I forgot about it, but now we'll do comfort for our market crier and get some additional passenger traffic going. Uh-oh. We're missing supply towers? Yes, we are. By the way, this was not the mistake I was talking about. I actually meant to do this, leave them off until I had the line set up, but then I forgot to go back and do them. So this is another mistake. Now you can see now we've started to pass our buddies. They got a big head start. That one company was like 9 million krona when we started or something like that. First time we looked at them, and we've now passed them. So I do not consider the AI, even on very hard, to be a problem. If they are, it means that you haven't quite dominated the scenario the way you should, because if you really truly dominate it, you will get that done. So here I'm going to expand the weaving. I keep forgetting it. I own it, so I got to keep track of the demand on it. Make sure we get the weaving down there to Jonkoping and also over to Gothenburg. So here's the place where I'm a little disappointed. We're at 60. Well, you got to be 61 to get growth. You have to be over 60. So look down through there, and again, that crisp bread is not coming through, and we're not getting the cloth. So fortunately, we just upgraded L-Town weaving. That should have been done sooner. And again, I'm looking back here to say, okay, well, what can I do about getting this bakery to produce? Because we're just not getting enough exports. They're probably going out and going to Stockholm and other places. There's competition for it. Could go in and modify the lines coming out of Örebro and cut out the exports to other cities and make it go to Gothenburg. I am going to send it a little more wheat to make sure it's getting plenty of wheat. But otherwise, decided to just stick with it, and we'll see what happens when we start getting. That's even hard for me to believe that is even correct. Now we're growing again, and that's because a little bit of cloth showed up. But even at that, I can't see how that could be 60% satisfaction when we've got like 6 of the 8 goods fully supplied. That doesn't make any sense to me. Now, I thought about accenting the cloth and decided no, there's no need for that. It will get shipped. If it's available, it will get shipped. So now we're looking much better, 76%. See, the potatoes have kicked in, but immediately, you see that? Immediately it bought the potatoes that we'd already preloaded into the warehouse. So we have no break in the action there. In fact, it's actually a good thing. When we hit a bigger threshold and started needing the potatoes, we actually were already ready for it. So immediately we started fulfilling it, and actually, instead of being a problem, it became a strength for us. So now we're going to get that milk I was talking about earlier and try to do the same thing with it. Try to get the milk down there into the warehouse before it becomes an issue, and so that it turns that issue into an opportunity for us to satisfy the city even more right away. So we're going to run a line down here, connect it into our main trunk line, and run milk down to the warehouse. So I'm going to set this, and I'm fully aware that milk isn't turned on in that warehouse, but I'm going to go ahead and set up the trains, and then I'll go in here and turn on the milk, make it something that the warehouse holds, and there we go. Now we've got milk coming down, and we can get that milk down there in anticipation of the next growth for Gothenburg when it's going to start needing milk. And again, that one right there, that crisp breads is our biggest weakness. And I really, honestly, had originally planned when I first started looking at this, right after we'd finished the last episode, my plan was to put a crisp bread, a bakery in Jonkoping, and then run some wheat down to it from up there above L-Town, and that way we would have a better supply, a truly good supply, because that's much more important than having that clothing. But since the clothing was already there, I decided not to mess with it and just go with what we had. So we are growing. We're in pretty good shape, I think. It's only beginning of 1857. So I think we're in pretty good shape. We've been ahead the whole time, time-wise, so hopefully it's all going to work out nicely for us. Now there's a pretty nice little span where we got a lot of technology advances right there. 3 things in a matter of a few seconds. Here we go. Now we've got growth for Gothenburg. And we are definitely going to put that steel mill in there. And here's where I'm going to realize that big mistake I told you would notice that I missed. I'm going to expand that thing out, and I haven't quite, maybe you noticed that I haven't seen it yet as a player. But, oh, you big dummy. Okay, so we've got our steel industry in there. Now, the steel has no customers, right? So it's really not going to make any money for us yet. But we can fix that and prepare ourselves for the future. And I'm kind of looking at it to decide, well, what do I want to do? I'd love to, look at old Halmstad. Halmstad's almost at 40,000. It's going to have a new business opportunity open up here soon enough. So what I'm going to do here is set up a warehouse connected to Jonkoping, or Jonkoping, and we're going to run our steel out there and store it. Now that's going to do several things for us. One is it's going to set up a storage where we can pre-produce steel in anticipation of getting into tools and in anticipation of eventually getting into furniture or anything else we need the steel for. Secondly, it's going to allow us to start making money right away on that steel industry, because we'll get paid for as production. There will be a profit based on our shipping it off somewhere. So when you have an industry, you have to create the good, get the raw material, create the new good, the finished product, and you have to ship it somewhere to get money on it. Well, we're just going to ship it off to this warehouse. Now, some people might think of this as cheating. I truly don't think so, particularly in this case, because what we're doing is stockpiling, giving ourselves the ability to build steel in advance of other things we know we're going to do when the time is right. So now we're going to set up a line that runs full and runs out to that warehouse so that we can load steel out to that warehouse. And right here I notice, wait a minute, where's the steel? That's still in that slow to build, is it? And here I go, oh my word, I didn't run the flippin' iron ore. Got the line all set and ready to go, and there's no trains on it. This was the big blunder. Can't believe I did that. So we're going to fix that right now. And if they were already there, we'd already done this, our steel mill would be producing steel and making us a nice profit right now and preparing us for the future. Instead, we're going to have to wait for that iron to get down there to get any work done. So here's another cheesy bonus. We're just going to connect this thing up. Kind of don't care how much the tracker stuff costs. We're just going to build it and then take it right back down. There we go. Got another bonus. Don't need professors anymore. You can see we got 10 million in cash. We are economically viable company now. And here I finally punch in and notice all those exclamation points and realize that I had made my favorite mistake and failed to put in supply towers down here. So here's a critical part of our system with no supply towers. And I did the same thing up here on that new line that we set up for those two, Uppsala and Orlange. And I've still got a mistake, I think, down here. Yeah, right here. That pig line into Stockholm has no way of getting supplies. Now it does. So that was pretty stupid. And what really stupid, I noticed it, I saw it. It should have jumped out at us, or at me, earlier, and I failed to react to it. All right, but we're getting good growth again. Still, we're not getting crisp bread. We're not getting enough cloth. We'll eventually get iron ore in there. And that does count. The iron and coal, because we have an industry, do count toward our goods meeting for growth. I don't think the furniture does for that warehouse. I don't think that counts as part of your demand satisfaction for the city, that export warehouse. But the other two certainly do, because there's a business there that wants that stuff. Okay, the cheese. How are we going to get the cheese? There's a dairy farm in Jonkoping, but it doesn't have milk. There's milk over there. Do we want to bother with running it over here to Jonkoping? One of the hardest things about this map, there's not a lot of cities. I mean, they're all puny, and there's not very many of them. So you got to really make each one count and get what you can out of them. Okay, so we hook Jonkoping into our little network here. Now we're going to look to see how can we run milk over there to get that cheese industry going, so that we could also get cheese going down to Gothenburg. Decided to run it kind of away from in town and just run it down, link it in like this. And now we can run loads of milk into L-Town and start having a productive dairy business there, which will then hopefully produce some dairy that can go down to Gothenburg where it can be consumed. All right. All right, so how are we doing? We're about almost 45,000 out of 60. We're in early 1857. I think we're in pretty good shape. We'll find out. I think we're in good shape. We're certainly going to complete the task. That's for sure. Unless we have some kind of weird slowdown that stops us from growing. But we've got so much stuff going in there now that I just don't see that happening. Yeah, we're at 73% growth. So here I'm just checking to see has any of that iron made it down there, and yeah, it has. Yes, it has. We are now producing steel. We actually made a tiny little profit, but we should be loading it onto trains now and starting to run those trains out to the warehouse. That way our steel industry will be making money, and we're shipping that coal and iron down there, which is helping with our demand satisfaction. Okay, starting to look a little better now. Now, the next thing they need would be fruit. So we're looking around for some fruit. We need to find accessible fruit that we can easily hook into the system and take into. We've got one more slot in that warehouse, so why not put something in it? And right up here's fruit near Örebro. And it's right next to existing lines, so we won't have to build a ton of track. All we really need to do is just connect the Örebro to Gothenburg trunk line with the line that goes from Örebro to Jonkoping. And that's simple enough. There we go. It's now connected. And get rid of that one. Whoops, I got the wrong one. There we go. Get rid of that one signal and the one over here to make sure that the full train can get all the way out of there. And now all we have to do is make a short little track that runs the fruit into our main line, and it'll be able to go all the way down to the warehouse at Gothenburg. And now we've got one more thing being preloaded. I don't know if we'll get them down there in advance of the requirement, but we'll take a shot. We'll certainly have them down there fairly timely, if not perfect. You notice I don't use the refrigerator car when I'm running these foodstuffs into warehouses, because I don't think you get a bonus when you get paid for it. You don't get paid for it as you deliver it to the warehouse. You get paid for it as the city consumes it, and I don't think you get the bonus for the having used a refrigerator car. So if I'm not going to get a bonus, I want to run 8. I don't want to run 7. So there we go. We got fruit set up. And I'm a little surprised at myself I didn't cherry pick that little connection bonus up there for that iron ore, but I just flat out missed it. And I do remember I did see it at one time, but I just kind of got distracted again and forgot about it. Now here we've got an overload on the logs. We've got more trains than we need for the amount of log usage we're getting down there. Our warehouse is full of logs, so we're just going to get rid of one of the trains. We don't need 3 trains from that for that particular line. Now we've got another chief engineer, but he gives us less of a bonus than our first one, and people don't like him as much, so bye-bye. And here we go, another promoter, hooray. So point him at Gothenburg, and now it'll grow at an even faster rate, and we're at 55,000 already, so we're in great shape now. We're looking like we're going to be able to finish this off fairly soon.
Thanks to the direct railway connection, Gothenburg has quickly become one of the most important harbour cities in Scandinavia. Currently, a downright railway mania has taken over the population. But you must not dally, only a small part is done. The goal is to create a railway network which connects all regions. Therefore, the south of the country has to be developed in a hurry.
All right, so we got, and I've been calling it Gothenburg, it's Gothenburg. We've got Gothenburg built, and now we're going to head south and work on Malmo and point south, and we'll handle that in the next episode. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it'll help you become a better player. I hope you'll like, comment, and subscribe, and join us for our next Railway Empire video. Thank you.